Hey y'all, so I have just this quick thought. I was just sitting up here just talking to myself as I do a lot of times, and I was thinking about how our morals don't always align with our actions, especially when we've experienced trauma, we've experienced, uh, I would say I would call them like life stab wounds, or even like almost near death type situations, and that affect our heart so much, and we feel like we've missed things, and we haven't got to experience something, and it's like, oh, I didn't get to do this because of this situation, or this thing was happening in my life at that time, and so now you try and go back and do, like do a redo. And I don't know, as my mind is kind of everywhere. So I'm just talking this out. And I was thinking about it because of my own life situations that I've dealt with. And then I was looking at some other people that I used to do life with at one point, and how just decisions that we make, understanding that there's a consequence because we jumped into something that honestly wasn't good for us. It was just a feeling. And I'm sure most of you have heard someone say before, don't follow your feelings. Do not, if you're in your feelings about something, like, don't make decisions. That's what they're saying. Don't make decisions while you are still in the feelings and in the emotions of those situations, because those decisions are usually completely wrong. Heard a lot of people say, I'll follow your heart. No, no, no. Because your heart, first of all, let's check out if we could have an x-ray right now. If we could x-ray your heart right now, what is going on with your heart, right? And if we could, and I'm saying not in the anatomy physiology of it, but in the emotional status. Like, is your heart healed? You know, are you stable, or are you about to flatline? Like, if that makes sense. And so I'm just thinking about it like, well, if any of that is the case, if you have tachycardia, bradycardia, like these are emergency type situations, then no, you shouldn't be making like some life changing decisions in this moment. So instead, maybe sit back, maybe think about, okay, am I willing to risk it all? I'm not a betting person, but I have been to Vegas many times. I've been through the different hotels in Vegas. I remember we stayed in Fremont, and it was an old one of those very old hotels. And this lady, every time we came through the lobby, it was the same lady from the first day we checked in. She was there, like, I think we had been there like 3 days. She was in the same spot, and they had a Subway right next door. So, and she had her Subway sandwich, her little cup, her little drink and stuff. And I'm like, she been in the same spot. But I mean, but no, I'm not saying like, don't, but I'm just thinking about that. Like, you're in the same spot. And so, and I use that example just to say, like, okay, like what decisions are you making? Is that helpful for your life? I mean, I guess, if that's her life, that's her life. But and like I said, I'm not using it to throw anybody, in their lifestyle into this equation. What I'm just saying is I'm using it as an example so we can see, like, okay, like your decisions, they really do carry a lot of weight on your heart. People have been talking about it now, about understanding even how your skin, your fascia, has a lot to do with so many things. with, how your body responds to like trauma and different things. And I mean, and the protection is beyond this world. And so, yeah, you can study it, you can go look at it. But I was just thinking about that, like, how are you putting yourself in danger even, and not even thinking that you're doing it? Like I said, just the smallest things. I remember some years ago, I was way younger, and I remember uh going somewhere. I was going on the bus somewhere to go just run an errand, and I saw something as I was on the bus, just as we're passing different streets, and I considered getting off the bus and going over there, like, oh, let me see, maybe I should go shopping over there for a minute and then go to my next thing. And I thought about it, I said, I don't want to do that. I was like, I'm tired. I got to eat something. I said, let me get to this, my main stop I'm trying to go to, and do what I got to do real quick and go home. Because the place I was going to do this, to pick up this quick thing or do this errand, was on the way home. And so it was going to be closer to home. It was not going to be far. And I made the decision to not stop. I'm glad I did not stop, because what I found out later on was that something had happened over there. Very bad, accident, just crazy stuff had happened. And it's like, that could have been you in there, in that situation. And it's like, I'm not saying that, you always avoid situations like that, but you just never know how, you making a pit stop and doing this and going to hang out with this person and that person, how, and knowing what their motives are. You think you know somebody, like, oh, I didn't know them for like 15 years and we fine, they wouldn't get us in trouble. And it's like, you never know what somebody's doing. You just don't know. Somebody could be, you know, meaning you harm. Know a story about that too. It ain't my story, so I'm not gonna tell it. But yeah, like, I've talked to people who have told me, like, yeah, they made a detour, made some decisions again, because they thought, oh, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to do this or that. And I don't know. And where I was going to earlier, like, about morality and like, I remember they used to ask us this when I used to be in these nonprofit groups, and they would be like, what are your morals, because they wanted to know like who we were, in our core, when it comes to, decision making. And because we were doing a lot of decision making as a group, and so they wanted to know, like, what are your morals, what are your values, what do you hold dear, because does it align? And the question was, do your morals and values align with our company? Are you going to follow through with what our company says? And again, like I said, what does that have to do with it? It has a lot to do with it, because it makes sense. People talk about branding. You're your own brand. What is it that you're doing? Does it follow through with your branding? Because you are a whole brand when you walk outside. Are you actually like walking and talking the thing that you believe and you say you are? Um, and for me, like I said, this is kind of going everywhere, so I apologize in advance if you're still watching the video. This is just me kind of like ranting. Not really ranting, but like just my talking through thoughts. But yeah, I think about, like, okay, how my previous decisions have led me into places that I should not have been in, and the people I connect with and people that I'm not connected with anymore because of me being unsafe. For example, I was a very unsafe person, and somebody once even told me, in recent years, told me, don't talk to me no more, don't call me, don't text me, nothing. And I was like, whoa. And it was really hurtful at the time, but something I got in my mind later was, oh, yeah. When I evaluated and thought about it, I said, yeah, I said, no, no, no. I was a threat to their livelihood. It didn't seem like it to me at the time, but yeah, I was still in the throes of so many transitions. I was still dealing with a lot of trauma. I was still trying to figure out how to be myself, and there was so much. Not going to go into it now, but I have been in therapy, still in therapy, still learning, still growing, still becoming. And yeah, just there's a lot of things. And I've had to forgive myself. I've had to hold on to um my own peace of mind and grab peace from God and grab peace from nature and everywhere else that I can grab it from people that actually do love me, have stayed. It's not that many now. I've never had a big circle of friends. I did not go to um university or and got my bachelor's and do all that and have people like that. I just didn't have that. That was not my experience. And most of the people I knew were from work or from high school, which some I don't really have anymore. I have a couple people, but and then from church, and that's that group has gotten smaller and smaller. There are many people who have walked away and completely said nothing to me, and I don't mind it either, because as my cousin used to say, hey, everybody's on their own journey. And so I um just saying all that just to say, like, there's so much to consider when it comes to, your morals, your values, what do you hold dear to? And that changes, I guess, like as you get older. I am getting older, and I feel like I'm just in a place where I'm starting to let go of so many ways of being from the past, letting go of heavy weights of issues. I used to always value, you know, wanting to have so many people to just, love and care for. And that has not changed, but it has changed as far as the persons that I love and care for. Many of them are getting better and doing their thing, and as people learn and get better, a lot of times they will stop talking to the ones that, you know, were part of their journey at one point, and that's okay. I've just learned to be okay with it, and I'm just learning how to allow myself to be okay with so many things. There's a scripture that talks about, I'm content in this area. I'm content here, and and it's like, yeah, you learn to be content, in whatever season, whatever day it is, whatever time it is, with whatever you have or whatever you don't have. You have much, great. You content with that. You have a little bit, you could just have some water and bread. Learn to be content with just that. And can you afford this? Can you move here? Can you go there? Great. If you can't go anywhere because your situation is different, okay. And you are content with that because that's just where you are right now. That is not your forever. And I think, excuse me, that's another thing to understand too, that as time, goes on, like there will be changes. There will be ebbs and flows, and I'm just learning to just allow myself to be where I am and wherever people are, and allow them to be themselves. And whether they choose to acknowledge me or not, they don't have to. They don't owe me nothing. Don't nobody on this earth owe me anything at all. And I am so happy to finally let that go, because I used to hold on tight and be like, oh my goodness, but like I thought they were gonna be my friend, and I thought we was gonna, always be around each other. Baby. As the old folk told me, keep on living, because that ain't what happens. And it's just, just how people are. And we just learn how to keep on living. And it's not easy to keep doing that. It's not easy to keep on moving forward, but I am determined to keep moving forward. I'm determined to keep uh, loving people, to keep joy in my heart, uh, and to let it all go. Everything else that doesn't belong, let it go and let it slip down wherever it needs to go. And I want all the people that I love and care about, and especially those that are not, a part of my life in this season. I always want best. Remember, I told a cousin of mine that before. I was like, I don't think you really know me. Um, we have so many cousins, and it's like a lot of times we mistake being in close proximity with knowing one another. Doesn't mean you know me. And it doesn't mean I know you either. There's versions of you, there's today you, and there was, 5 years ago you, if we, knew each other then, but there's a different part of you. And so, and there's many parts of you. I won't say a different part. There's many parts, there's many layers that you have. And so, appreciating you as you are, and not wanting to change you, not wanting to make you into something that either one of us have imagined. You've imagined, this friendship, this connection being this way. And it's like, baby, that ain't it. But yeah, I'm just rambling right now. But yeah, that's what's on my mind right now. But I will talk to y'all later. You have a good one.